All right, what is going on today, chat? Episode 52. I almost said 53, but we're at 52. What's up, chat? What up, what up? How's it going? Apple, welcome. Chris, what's up? Let's get it, chat. Guys, why is Pokemon so crazy right now? Why are we back in like COVID pandemic vibes? Like we got a bunch of people fighting each other in Costco's. We got fake prototype cards now being announced by, apparently there's metadata in printers. I don't know. It's Pokemon Pockets popping off. Sets are getting crazy. People are pulling Sunbreons and God packs, and it's like, man, dude, there's just like so much going on, dude. It's like, it's hard. You can't even keep track. You can't. It's like so hard to like keep track and like collect, man. Mike, what's going on? Just had a restock. I heard about people apparently like stalking people who restock the shelves and stuff, to like follow them to like the Targets or the Walmarts that they go to. It's I'm literally just like a loss for words. Like it has come to, it's been, scalpers are that down bad that they're stalking like people who are restocking the shelves. No pun intended, by the way, but it's just, all of it's crazy. And then there is another Pikachu illustration rare printing that was now more, I think they're kind of looking into it, like an investigation on whether or not that was real. We got a lot to talk about today. Like, how do we even keep track? But anyway, enough about that. We'll probably do that towards the end of the grade review, because I don't know, like, what do we do, chat? What do we do in these trying times, dude? I don't know what we do. But let's look at some cool cards, I guess, to we'll settle down the nerves. We'll look at some cool cards that you guys submitted for grade review episode 52. We'll just do our casual thing, and we'll just big chill, and yeah, and then we'll try to talk about it. We got some games. We got Pokemon Pocket, the new set releasing tomorrow. It's a roller coaster, dude. It's an absolute roller coaster. So for those of you who are new, my name is Galaxia Gaming, and every Wednesday we do what's called grade review. So in a nutshell, what I'm about to do is I'm about to review community members' cards that have submitted their cards through our Discord to be reviewed live and for free on what I think and chat thinks the potential PSA grade would get. And so first off, we're starting with a subscriber who actually has priority, since it is a first come first serve service. So thank you as always, WG, for being a real one. I think you're up there in terms of subscription, so I appreciate that very much. And let's get into the cards. So first up, more stuff going absolutely nuts. Well, Ethan, this is the stream for you then, to determine whether or not these cards or your cards are worthy of submitting, because a lot of the techniques I'm going to be talking about today you can either do yourself, or if you want to submit your cards in our grade review to be reviewed in the future date, because the queue is closed today, definitely let me know and I can go over that, or one of the moderators. We have a few in tonight that would be more than happy to point you in the right direction on where to go to submit your cards for a free grade review. Steve, thank you for the follow over on TikTok. And if you wanted all their different viewing experience, I am also streaming over on YouTube currently, so multi-stream, same tag. So just in case if you want a different viewing experience, it's over there too. So first up, Venusaur EX, one of the 151s. So the one thing I like to keep everyone in mind is with Modern, the big things that we're really looking for is centering and corners. Let's see, I pulled this card on Christmas morning, was wondering if I should get it graded. Well, hopefully if it gets a 10. So centering and corners is really what we're looking for Modern. So let's take a look. I got a jet, but will the VOD be available? Yes. So the VOD instantly gets uploaded to my YouTube channel once the live is done. So let's take a look. So the centering, so the first thing I see is for centering. It is a little bit thicker on this left side. And as you can see, I am using a pen tool tonight to kind of help you guys visualize what I'm looking at specifically. So this left side here is a little bit thicker than here. But the big thing that we're really looking for, and I always recommend measuring this in person, is we want to try to get to 50-50 ratio, as close to 50-50 ratio as possible. So for PSA standard, the limit is 60-40, but I truly believe that it's more 55-45. So you'll kind of hear me bounce those two numbers back and forth. So I'd probably say that this is probably where we're going to try to kind of stick in those lines. So that's probably the centering in which we're really looking for. The hoodie came in today. It's insanely soft. Holy. Well, I'm glad you like it, Betty. What company is this for? So we're assessing through PSA specifically. So the front's a little off center from that left to the right, but I would measure that in person. We want to try to get between 50-50 to 55-45 ratio. But the corners, another tool I'm going to be using tonight, is a little magnifying tool here. Everything looks to be good there. So let's flip it over. And it is a tad thicker on the backside as well. So you'll hear me say this often tonight. So a good way to verify if some side is thicker than the other is normally, it's not always, but normally what will happen is it'll translate to the back. So since we're thinking that this left side is thicker on the front, if we flip it over, it then should be thicker on the right side. And by first glance, it does appear a little bit thicker, but I think we're, especially on the back, because the back is normally 70-30 in terms of ratio, but we should be good. I think it's within that range. So I would say, and the big thing, what I was talking about with corners, I'm not seeing those little white corners on the top or bottom, so that's really good. So I would say just double check your measurement with an actual ruler or a measuring tool. If everything seems within like the 55-45 or 50-50 on the front and within that 70-30, or this doesn't look like it's that bad, but just double check those. If those measure out on paper, this should be a good 10 contender for that Venusaur EX, so that's good so far. Hey Gripo, how's it going? But yeah, definitely check that out for sure. And if you guys are enjoying what you're seeing so far and have any questions, please feel free to let me know, or the moderators know. I'll do my best to try to answer and catch up with you guys between each card. So I appreciate you. Thank you for the follow. I'll give it a 1. There you go. Says the monkey. I mean, that's pretty accurate for a monkey. I mean, the fact that you can even type on a keyboard is impressive enough. So Kata, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, definitely let me know. And let's move on to the Psyduck from 151. So again, really for the modern, we're looking for centering and corners here. So centering looks pretty good. And so the only thing that I possibly see, but it might be the wood background here, is a little bit on this section, but it might be that specifically. But aside from that, the centering looks great. I'm not seeing any print lines from this angle specifically. So far so good there. And on the back, it is very well centered. Where I was talking about with that Venusaur EX, so I was kind of like, kind of going back and forth a little bit. But the centering on this is actually pretty good. And we're also not seeing any whitened corners on the top or the bottom. And the surface on the back looks pretty good. So I would say this would also be a good 10 contender, pending if there's no print lines, because from this angle that we can't really see any, which is great. So this one looks really good. I'd say that's probably a 10 contender for sure. Is it easier to get 10s on Japanese? So on average, Japanese cards have a higher print quality than English cards in most cases. So I guess like on paper, yes, it's easier to get 10s just due to the print quality. But let's see. Looks clean. Sorry, I'm just messaging someone real quick. All right. So next up, we have the Squirtle. This card, I mean, I'm going to say there's probably a lot, so I'm just going to have a blanket statement. A lot of these cards are going pretty crazy in terms of price. So everything is going up. Everyone's speculating at this point. but let's take a look. So the centering looks good on this one as well. So the only thing that I've noticed right off the bat is I don't know what this is. And what this is what I'm about to circle here. So right here, right where that energy is in the top right there. So it looks like a bit of dust or debris or something like that kind of stuck in that near that top corner. So I'm not too sure what that is. We probably wipe that off, hopefully. If not, that is going to have an impact on the surface grade. But let's flip it over. And this one probably would not get the 10 because it appears, so this top right corner is good. And as we kind of go across, I'm not too sure what these are. So, and what I mean is, and I'll kind of zoom in here in a second. So they're almost like roller scuffs, like from when the cards come off the roller. I'm not too sure what that is. So those two spots right there. So if I kind of look, so right here and right here, that's what I'm looking at. Additionally, I see a little bit of whitening in that top left corner, and I see a little bit of whitening in that bottom left corner as well. And let me kind of zoom in real quick. And so this is what this right here is what I'm seeing right there. So that little bit of whitening in the bottom left, and then the whitening in the top left. Additionally, with some of that probably can be wiped off on that left edge. So I'd say overall probably won't get the 10, probably get the 9. But I don't think it'd get the 10 because of those two bits of whitening. And then additionally, we want to try to see if we can get rid of whatever this is, possibly. If it's something you can't get rid of, then you're probably looking at a 9 to an 8. I don't think it'd be an 8. That seems too aggressive, but just double check that in person. Skate, thank you for the follow. Pro Dabs, thanks for the share. I appreciate that. Does there have to be literally no whitening at all in the back? I'd say, you know, if you do have whitening, you're pretty quickly distancing yourself from a 10. I've definitely seen cards that have had a bit of whitening that have come back as 10s. There's one in particular I could bring up a lot. There's a Mew that we reviewed on stream, and both myself and chat thought it was going to be an 8, and it came back as a 10. So it's not like a guarantee where if you have bits of whitening it's going to get the 10, but it's unlikely. So Luffy asked how to send in cards. So I'm assuming there's probably going to be other people who want to know how to submit your cards. So again, this is a free service that I offer to the community. I stream this once a week, every Wednesday, starting around 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Today was a little bit different because I had to deal with some personal stuff, so we had 7:30. But all you have to do is in the link in my bio, which would go to my link tree, you'll be redirected to said link tree. Next, all you have to do is click or tap the Discord icon on the right-hand side. From there, it will send you an invite to then be redirected to the Discord server. Once you go through there, there's a grade review channel in the Discord where you submit your cards absolutely for free, as many as you want. But there is a first come, first serve approach, and you'll need to follow the rules that are pinned in the pinned messages, because you want to make sure that you don't have cards. So you can see this one, for example, isn't in a top loader or a sleeve, so we can really see if the scratch or issues are on the actual card or on the sleeve. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. But if you want your cards expedited, meaning that, you know, you don't want to wait for first come, first serve, because sometimes it gets a little bit, you know, backed up a little bit just due to demand. There is a subscription that the Discord offers starting at $4.99 a month and up. And in addition to priority grade review, there's some other fun stuff too that you get, such as more entries into giveaways and whatnot. And so right now we're actually looking at a subscriber's cards to start off the grade review tonight. So that's how you do it. Jav, Luffy, and 8, Aiden, and Rocks, thank you guys so much for the follows, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. If you do like what you see, I really appreciate all the shares and likes. It helps me spread the word on what I'm trying to do, and at the end of the day, I want to try to educate the community as much as I can so we all collectively can get better at doing grades and knowing what to look for. So I definitely appreciate all the love and support. And let's move on with the Ivysaur. So this Ivysaur, kind of same thing that we saw with that Venusaur EX, a little bit off center on the left side, but I don't think it's outside of those constraints of if it's outside like the 55-45, it's not getting the 10. So I think we're chilling there. So we're not too bad. The corners look good on the front, and then the surface from this angle specifically looks fine. There's nothing major print lines or anything like that, so we'll just flip it on over. And the same thing with the Squirtle is kind of happening with this one, but not as bad. But I notice at least 2 points of whitening here, so let me just zoom in just a tad so you guys can see what I'm looking at. And this one actually might be part of the table, I'm not too sure. But right where the tip of my mouse is, there's a little bit of whitening there, as well as the bottom left and the bottom right corner. So we have one here on that bottom left corner, and then we have another one on the bottom right corner. So again, my kind of rule of thumb that I tend to stick with is if you have at least 2 points of whitening, you're pretty much distancing yourself entirely from a 10. There is obviously a little bit of a chance, because I have personally seen some cards have a little bit of whitening, at least like 1 point, that have gotten 10s before. But then I've personally have submitted some that just simply don't and get the 9. So that's pretty much where my comments are coming in from, just from that experience. So that's why I kind of mentioned that this is pretty much a long distance 10. My gut would probably say you probably get a 9 from those 2 bits of whitening on the bottom. But if this was also measured a little bit off center, you're probably looking at even an 8. So just keep that in mind. But on your opinion, are the centering tools you can order off Amazon reliable, like the template thing? No, I have some. I've used some in the past. In my opinion, as I kind of use them, to be honest, I've been using a ruler, a clear, transparent ruler with millimeter markers. To me, it's a little bit more accurate, and it's a little bit easier for my eyes to kind of line up. It's just like, oh, it's like 2 millimeters or 3 millimeter or whatever, right? But the tools are really quick because you can just put the thing over the card entirely. But for me personally, I've been sticking with a transparent ruler with millimeter markers. Yeah, Ro. Well, the thing is I'm using a monitor with like max brightness, dude. So it's kind of tough for you guys sometimes because you guys are viewing it on a mobile device, right? So, but yeah, we've been doing this a lot. This is episode 52, so we've been doing this for a very long time. But Corey, thanks for the follow, and Matt, thanks for the follow. Opinion on the card centering app? Honestly, I haven't used it yet. I keep saying that I'm going to, and I just haven't gotten around to it, to be honest. But let's keep on keeping on. Again, if you guys have any questions, I am going to try to read them between each card, so I apologize if I do miss anyone. It's not that I hate you. I love you all, but it is hard to catch up sometimes, so I appreciate your patience as we go through these cards. Can the picture be slanted on back? Like slanted meaning like to show different perspectives, like lighting and such? If that's what you mean, then yes, it's actually preferred in some cases because we can actually see some of the scratches on like vintage hollows, for example. That's what I like to do. So let's keep on keeping on with the Alakazam EX, and Nin Comp is already seeing it with those eagle eyes. And so on this Alakazam, like I was talking about with the Venusaur and the Ivysaur, this one's a little bit more predominant in terms of being off center. So this right side is a bit thicker than the left. So far not looking good from a centering perspective. And so again, if we want a little bit more confirmation that this right side is thicker, in most cases, it will also be thicker when we flip it over on the left. And this time it's not, which is actually interesting because sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And this one's actually pretty well centered on the back. However, we do have a little bit of whitening again from what we can see on this bottom left side. So we have a little bit of whitening right there. And this little bit of whitening, that might be part of the table. I'm not too sure. There's a little bit of a kind of a camera blur on that side. But I would say with it being off center on the front like this and a little bit of the whitening on the back, I'd probably say rather that this might get the 9. But again, always measure this stuff in person because I'm just viewing it on a monitor. So if it's within that 55-45 or 60-40 on the front, you technically on paper have a chance. But I think with that little bit of whitening in the bottom left, you're starting to distance yourself a little bit. No, I mean the picture printed rotated. Like if you set a picture and it's like sideways. Is that what you mean? Because I have one for today's submission that is like that. But anyway, so thank you WG over on Discord for not only being a subscriber, but thank you for your submission. Always cool cards to look at for 151. Obviously a very popular set that is so popular that people are throwing elbows when going in Costco. So always, you guys got to watch your back. You guys got to watch your back when you're going into Costco, because you never know when the people's elbow is going to be coming in hot for an ETB or a box collection. Inverted back, I think he means. So if it's inverted or whatever, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if I can at least see the corners, centering, edges, and surface, it doesn't really matter, the orientation. Thank you, Danny, for clarifying if that's what he meant. All right, so next up, we got, what do we got? We got, this is one hell of a name. You guys ready for this name? So next up, we have Kaka Cabbage is up. What? I don't know where you guys get your names sometimes, but man, they are something. So let's see. And of course, we got some absolute heat from Kaka Cabbage. So we got some gold stars in the building. So let's take a look. And I feel like now we got to check the printing metadata with all those fakes going around. I mean, like, man. Did we just send in pics of cards? Because I have the magic card from Paldean, but I'm scared to send it. So I would say if you want to submit your cards for a grade review, and I'll go over that really quick. If you go into my bio, in my description, you will see my link tree. Once you're here, all you have to do is click or tap the Discord icon. It will then send you to the Discord, which will then present you a grade review channel. Once you're there, you submit as many cards as you'd like, completely for free, but it is first come, first serve, with a limit of 5 cards per person per stream. In addition, if you want your cards to be reviewed faster, meaning if you want your Magikarp, if you're trying to submit it, you know, within a week or 2 weeks or whatever, like you want to submit it as fast as possible, the Discord server does offer priority grade review as a subscription starting at $4.99 a month. In addition to some other perks like getting more entries to future giveaways and getting announcements to early shop updates, because I sell cards online as well, and you get first dibs before they go official. So, and some more perks as well. So that's how you do it. So again, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. We're at 1.9K likes. Thank you guys so much. If you're over on YouTube, definitely say hi. I'm watching you guys as well. And let's keep going on from Kaka Cabbage, Kyogre Gold Star. So let's take a look. So front of this card is in really good shape from the angle that we're seeing. And from said angle, I am not seeing any scratches. Maybe up here in that top right, but I'm not too sure next to this swirl. But aside from that, the card looks in phenomenal shape. I'm just kind of looking at the text here. Maybe this is a little bit of either something stuck on the front or some of that blue ink layer being removed, exposing the hollow. I'm going to assume it's probably the former, meaning that something stuck there. So we'll have to kind of take that at literally face value. So let's flip it over. And yeah, I mean, the back, you know, being as old as it is, you know, coming out in 2005, the card is actually in pretty decent shape, to be quite honest with you. So the top left-hand corner has a little bit of whitening there, more so than if you were to see it coming from the pack. A little bit of whitening on that bottom left and on the bottom right, a little dot there as well. But all in all, a very clean card. So I think we have enough people from both YouTube and TikTok, so we will open it up to chat. This is your chance to vote on what you think this Kyogre Gold Star would get. So if you want to vote, all you have to do is type in !grade followed by the number for your vote to count. Again, that's !grade followed by the number on what you think this Kyogre Gold Star would get. And after about a minute, I'll keep the poll open for about a minute, and the winning vote will be the chat grade. So again, !grade followed by the number if you want to vote on what you think this Kyogre Gold Star would get as a PSA grade. Here is the front, and here is the back. And if anyone needs me to flip it over again, I will, but most of the issues are going to be more on the back than the front. The front was actually really clean, so if anyone needs me to flip it over, let me know in chat. But otherwise, I'm going to catch up with you guys as you vote. I'll leave the poll open for about another minute, and we'll go from there. But yeah, chat, the Pokemon is been going crazy lately. It's hard to keep up, to be quite honest with you. All I know is at least as long as I can buy my Team Rocket stuff when it comes out, whew, that's the set that I'm really looking forward to the most, chat. I am super looking forward to it. As a Team Rocket, the first set was my favorite OG set, like in the Wizards era, probably. Coming close with like Aquapolis and Expedition and Skyridge, but yeah, I hear you. Not, I know it's tough. It's tough being a guy who wants to just collect shiny cardboard. It's tough out here. But hopefully they print some to demand if Pokemon know what that sentence means, but we'll see. All right, so let me end the poll here. So we got all right, so by one vote, you guys were very, very split. But by one vote, you guys are thinking it was a... So chat, you guys were thinking a PSA 8. You guys were very torn between a 7 and an 8. But the winning vote was indeed an 8. So move that over here. Save that real quick. And so now it is my turn. So what do I think this Kyogre Gold Star would get? So from this picture specifically, the centering looks good. The corners look good. And the only thing that I can see, but I don't know if it's part of the holo or an actual scratch of some kind, is this up here. I'm not too sure what this is. It's really difficult to kind of see from this perspective. There's also some faint lines. It's really hard to tell on screen, but I'm really zoomed in here and it looks like there's potentially some scratches in this top right-hand corner. But aside from that, the Kyogre itself, the text itself looks good. Additionally, I'm not too sure if this is a bit of what it looks like dirt or debris or the actual ink layer being removed to show that white speck. So I'm not too sure about those two specifically. And as we flip it over to the back, the things that we see is a little bit of whitening on the top left and potentially whitening on the bottom left and the bottom right as well. So we do see those as well. So I would imagine with what we're seeing here, I kind of have it almost like a little bit of a back and forth here. So if we can remove this little speck here, and if these are indeed just part of the holo or not scratches, I would say that this would get an 8. However, if these are scratches, what to me it does appear to be, and what appears to be something on, like, removed from the card specifically, because my gut would say that if I had a picture of this card, if it were my card, I would remove that. So my gut says that that's actually removed from the front of the card. In addition to the whitening in the bottom left-hand corners and the top left. Since that's removed from the front, I wouldn't consider that near mint plus. So I would lean more towards that 7 if that is not removable. So I'll kind of have that be the kind of the asterisks, if you will. So chat, you guys were thinking an 8, and then I am thinking an 8 as well. If you can get rid of that little bit of whitening right underneath that water energy from the critical collection, but if not, because it would then indicate that it's actually ink removed, you're probably still looking at a 7 because the front and the back is so good, in addition to some of those potential scratches up there, but it's kind of hard to tell. So that would be my prediction for that Kyogre. In this one, we got a little bit of a holo bleed, which is really cool. What is the holo foil by the sheer cold attack? Looks like on the left, is that regular? Yes, I was looking at that too, Moot. And I think that was just a regular, well, not like regular meaning that they're always printed like that. I just think that, you know, the placement just happened to be there due to some degree of like a holo bleed. Dark, how's it going over on YouTube? Welcome in. All right, next up is the Entei. I feel like Pokemon said they were going to up production, only send 1 out extra box, right? I hear you, Notch. All the gold stars are so nice. Where are people submitting the cards so you look at them? If you want to just give me 1 quick second, Dark, after this Entei, I'll be happy to explain it to you. Just hold tight real quick. All right, so next up, the Entei Gold Star. with a nice little swirl while we're at it. So this one, I'd say, so to start, the centering is good. However, the first thing that I'm seeing when I'm kind of looking at the centering is we do what appears to be a fold here on that left edge. So I don't know if you guys can see it on stream, but there's a little bit of like a fold on that bottom left edge. So that's going to take us down a few points for sure. Additionally, we have some mild scratches by the paw here, by the Entei. But aside from those two observations, it is a pretty good looking card. And so as we look at the back, almost very similar to the Kyogre, and almost in the same spots, a little bit of whitening there on the top left. And additionally, we have a little bit of what appears to be a stain here on this back. You kind of see it a little bit discolored in this section right next to my mouse. A little bit potentially whitening, but that might be part of the table in the background. And that top right corner looks really good, but really it's just this fold right here on this left side that I'm really concerned with. So again, it looks like we are just good enough to do another chat poll. So if you guys want to vote on what you think this Entei Gold Star would get, again, type in !grade followed by the number. Again, that is !grade followed by the number if you want to vote on what you think this Entei Gold Star would get as a PSA grade. Because this is going to be tough. That little fold, pretty tough. But all in all, the card is in really good shape. You know, all things considered. Yeah, Chief, it is a gorgeous card, without a doubt. A gorgeous card. Absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, Vic, I don't know. I don't know what their version of printing to demand is, but I hope it's improved or they learn what that means. Because Team Rocket, that's the set, man. That's the set I'm really going after, for sure. So we'll see. Who knows? But anyway. Let's see. We'll wrap it up here with that voting. So it looks like by a few votes, we have a PSA 7 for chat. So let me go over here. So chat, you guys are thinking for the Entei is a PSA. That was really bad. Try that again. Sure. So chat, you guys are thinking PSA 7. There we go. So now, what do I think this Entei Gold Star would get? So the big thing that I saw on the front is that we do have a little bit of a fold here. It's not big, but from what I can tell, it is noticeable. A little bit of scratching there by the paw as well. So as we flip it over, the centering is good enough. Additionally, we have a little bit of whitening in that top left-hand corner, but the top right is flawless. The top edge is flawless. The right side, right edge, what we can see is flawless as well. The bottom right doesn't look like there's anything. That little white speck is on the table itself, and possibly the same thing here on that bottom left side as well. And we do have, I don't know if it's a stain or part of the camera. I'm not too sure, but this appears to look like a mild stain. I'm not really sure, though. It's kind of hard to tell. But all in all, the card is in fantastic shape. Really, the only thing wrong with it is just this side right here. And so the question is, would this be considered light play or near mint? Is really, really the big one. And judging by how clean the holo is, with the exception of these little two scratches by the paw here, it is in pretty good shape. But with anything peeling, right? So peeling like this, you know, we're kind of dancing out of that. We're dancing out of that near mint territory. It's really hard to kind of say that, but that's just the reality that we're kind of in. And since it's, and the kicker too in my opinion, is that it starts up here. Let me clear that. I don't know why that came up. So it starts up here and then ends here. So all this section right here is peeled up. So even though it's not that on the back, the fact that it is on the front kind of also adds to what I kind of call the fifth category, which is eye appeal. And so if we can kind of see that off the rip, you know, that's we're kind of getting out of that near mint. I mean, it's definitely like, I know a lot of people kind of say like LP plus or whatever. This would definitely be like that LP plus, like the higher end of an LP. But I think for, you know, a card that's peeling, would I call that near mint from a business perspective? I would say no, I wouldn't. I would consider it light play or a PSA 6, in my opinion. But it is so close. If that wasn't there, oh, it'd probably be an 8, to be honest. But even this poll between the 7 and the 6, it was very close. So I can definitely see both sides. So chat, you guys were thinking 7, which was tough because it was back and forth between 7 and 6. But I think just because of this folded section in the bottom left, I'm probably leaning more towards the 6. But man, that is a tough pill to swallow for sure. And thank you guys for helping us hit 2.1k likes over on TikTok. I appreciate you guys. And Dark, if you are in here, let me know, because I'm about to explain how to submit your cards. Just make sure, because you did ask and you are very patient with me. So if you are still there, let me know over on YouTube land. And so while I wait for Dark to respond, we are going to go with the Ryko Gold Star. Chief Beef, thank you for the like. Appreciate you. So centering looking really good. However, there is a little bit of a bend, but in most cases, we can just simply flatten that out. And for context, what I like to do that's really easy is you can just simply put the Ryko in a penny sleeve and put it in between some heavy books and let the weight kind of press it down a little bit to flatten that out. Because if we leave it there, there is a possibility that the surface will be impacted in terms of the score. So we want to flatten that out beforehand, but that looks like a very gentle curve that should be pretty easy to get removed. Corners look good. Centering looks good. No peel like we saw. Well, actually, let's see. It does kind of look like it. And it does. That's so unfortunate. We're kind of seeing a very similar peel on this Ryko. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm going to try to scoot my mouse over. I don't know if you guys can see that left side. But there is that little... The only reason why I'm saying it is because you can kind of see this little shadow line kind of going across that edge, which normally leads us to believe that it is a degree of a fold there. Very similar to the Entei. So very, very rough. Scratch on the meta voltage move to the left. Like if you're talking about these right here, like in this hollow line section, that could be. It does look like it. And then on the back, man, the back is just as good, man. It's just that fold. We got a little bit of the whitening up there on the top right. Top left looks really good. A little bit of just some generic, this kind of all looks like kind of generic surface wear on this bottom left hand corner and this bottom right hand corner. You kind of see these little specks of some mild surface issues, but not like crazy bad. But I think this Ryko is kind of suffering the same fate as the Entei did, to be quite honest with you, with this fold being present in from here to here. There is that degree of a fold, which again, you know, it's very, very mild. It's a very, very, very strong light play. So I'd probably say that the same grade would apply to this Ryko as well, which would be that PSA 6 because of that front fold. But the front, the back, you know, the back has its, you know, not very many issues, a little bit of whitening there, and then the what possible kind of surface issues on the bottom left and bottom right, but man, that's a bummer. And then the Suicune Gold Star, we got all the legendary dogs coming out. So the Suicune Gold Star, I think, is a little bit more in rough shape. So the first thing that I see, if you guys want to come hither, come close, is that we do have what appears to be a bend right in this section. So why I'm thinking that is because we see the kind of this very bright line across the hollow, and then it kind of leads right into the front paws of the Suicune. So my guess is that there was some issue or some bend in this card that's kind of making it almost like have that ripple effect throughout the card. So that is going to have some pretty significant, way more than what we're seeing with the Entei and the Raikou. Additionally, from this angle too, we also see these scratches here in the lighter section of the Suicune. But the centering is actually pretty good. This one, funny enough, does not have that same fold in that bottom left section. But all in all, pretty good there. And then, woof, the back is pretty rough. We have what looks to be pretty deep scratches from the light perspective. It might I think the lighting is making them look more aggressive than they probably are, but it is having a pretty significant impact on the surface grade here. You can kind of see all these scratches within my little red window here of my mouse. We have a little bit of whitening on the top left as well, and whitening on the bottom left. So I would say with this kind of cutting right through the Suicune, we got some scratches here. So we're kind of already out of that. Well, we're kind of getting lower into the like mod play section, mod play even getting into heavy play, because of that pretty notable bend here from like the knee all the way through the arm. And we have some scratches in that lighter section. We have some scratches here. So we're kind of getting into like mod play, heavy play. But with something that severe, I would probably lean more towards heavy play, because there is some degree of possibly like water damage or something like that that has had that significant damage there between the feet. So I'd probably say, with that being so predominant on the front, we're kind of looking into that 5 to 4 range, because the rest of the card does look really good. But these scratches are also pretty deep as well in the back. Out of Serial, thank you for sharing and liking the live over on TikTok. Appreciate you. So yeah, we're probably dancing around that 5 to 4 range for sure. And just judging by how deep those are and judging by the damage, I'd probably be more comfortable with a 4, because of how significant I know that PSA leans in on those types of damages. So I'd probably say more comfortably a PSA 4, to be quite honest with you. And last but not least, from Kaka Cabbage, which is again a crazy name, we have the Master Ball Umbreon. Japanese. If this were English, would be very up there. So let's take a look. So the centering looks pretty good on this Umbreon. And I really, really love this new texture foil that they're applying to these Master Ball and Pokeballs. Super nice, super good on the eyes. I don't know what I was trying to say there, so I kind of fumbled. But the front looks really good. The back, someone was saying like about the Japanese quality, and this is no exception. I think this card very well centered on the back. There's no whitened corners on the top right, top left, or bottom left or bottom right. So I would say, and the centering is good on both sides, I would say this is probably a good 10 contender, to be quite honest with you. There's not a lot that I see going wrong with it, so I'm glad we're able to give you some notable grade towards the end there. So thank you for that submission. And again, if anyone is new here and wants to know how to submit your cards for a free grade review, just let me know in chat and I'd be happy to go through it. Otherwise, I will just keep on keeping on. So I'm just going to catch up with chat real quick. What do you think about AI grading? I think AI grading, along with human grading, I don't think it should just be one or the other. I think it should be a combination of the two, because both have their strengths and both have their weaknesses. Like for example, with the whole CGC issue, I don't know if observing like the metadata that came up with those alpha or beta test Pokemon cards, if there would have been an opportunity for that technology to have seen that metadata and kind of raised a flag on its legitimacy. So that would have been a good opportunity possibly. But What CGC issue? Oh, there's been a big one, Chief. That I'm gonna probably go over it towards the end of grade review, because normally I like to start with grade review. But in a nutshell, CGC potentially graded fake cards that were like upwards of like millions of dollars because they were considered the alpha prints of Pokemon, like the first like test prints that a creatures employee had. Oh yeah, it's really bad. The CGC is definitely going through some PR nightmares for sure right now, because though that was huge. That was a huge mess up. All right, next up we have Axew with the Latios from Surging Spark. So let's take a look. Centering looks good. A little bit of something there stuck on the bottom left. And as a reminder, if that is something stuck there, PSA will not remove it for you. They are not that kind. So they would assess that and dock you some points from that surface grade. So we want to make sure that we remove whatever that is off the card. The front looks good. That angle looks good. There's nothing, no print lines that I can see. And on the back, we do have some whitening, so I don't think that this would get the 10, because we have what appears to be, so from this angle, we have whitening on the bottom left, we have whitening on the bottom right, and then we have whitening on the top left. So I don't think that this would get, in addition, the other thing I see, I don't know if you guys can see it, I'm going to really zoom in here, is we have a thumbprint. So we have your identity on the top of that card. So again, that's why it's always important if you're going to submit your cards to always make sure that your thumbprints and all that stuff are removed from the card, because ultimately someone's going to view that and dock you potential points on the surface. So I'd say overall this probably would not get the 10. I'd say just the centering is really good on the front and the back. I'd say you're probably looking at between a 9 or an 8, depending on, because we got 1, 2, 3 points of whitening. It is pretty good, but you're probably leaning more towards the 8 than the 9 because of the one more notable one on the top left, in addition to the one on the bottom left and the right. But you might be getting the 9, so it's probably within that range. Yeah, because everything is whatever impacts the surface. That's why I always recommend, if you're gonna look at your cards, definitely look it over, because that thumbprint, you know, if I can see it, the grader can see it. And then if you saw a slab, you know, graded, or a card graded, and you see a thumbprint, you know, that you know that that's obviously, you're not just going to be like, oh, I'm just going to ignore the thumbprint. You know what I mean? I know I wouldn't want a, unless it was like from the artist, maybe like the artist's thumbprint specifically. Who knows? Oh, so we got that one. And then next up, we got a Squirtle. This one also going up there from Stellar Crown. Again, I'm trying not to say that because it seems like every card right now is going up, so I'm not going to keep repeating that over and over again. So let's take a look at this Squirtle messing around with the Pidgeys. Front looks good. Centering looks good. Corners look good. Nothing notable on the back there, or on the front rather. There is an issue on the back, and I wonder from you guys for stream and wherever you're watching me from over on YouTube, if you guys can see the very peculiar issue that I see on the back of this card. Does anyone see what I possibly could be seeing? It might be a little bit tough. Hopefully you guys can see it. I think you should be able to see it. Yeah, Aaron, you got it. There's a little bit of a weird, I don't know what it is, but there's like a weird slash. Aaron's got a pretty good observation or a title for it. We got this little weird slash going through the back of this card in a very peculiar way, to where it really like rubbed the ink off, because you can kind of see it's lighter across, which is very interesting. It's probably the first time I've ever seen that. It almost looks like a roller issue. So we have a little bit of whitening there on that corner there. So on the top and the bottom corner, well, from our perspective, so we got a little bit there and a little bit of whitening there. as well. So definitely not getting the 10 because of that streak. I honestly wouldn't even know, because that's a pretty notable scratch. The front is like super clean, so I probably like a 7, to be quite honest with you, like an 8 or a 7, because that is very noticeable. It's something, it's not like you can't just not see that, you know what I mean? So that's pretty unfortunate, to be honest. Like, you might be able to squeak with the 8 because it is fortunately on the back than the front, but I would be very doubtful that that would get. But I'd say it's still near mint for sure, but I don't think it'd be like near mint plus or anything like that, which would be more of like a 7 than an 8. Yep, I'm right there with you, Chief. For me, modern, like, if it's like 10 or bust. And it's funny, I guess this is kind of like what I'm about to say is more of like a side tangent. Like, I've been seeing a few people saying, like, you know, why are 10s like so sought after for modern? Like, why isn't it the same for 9s? And it's like the print quality is so good for modern that when compared to like Wizards of the Coast, that the room for accepting errors is so minimal that's why people tend to be like, oh well, 9 we're basically gonna say as near mint. And because TCG Player doesn't have a mint category, so that's why when people say, oh, like a 9, it's basically near mint pricing. That's why. Because if TCG Player had a near mint and a mint category, then that idea would not apply. But since people, when they open their packs and you can only sell it as near mint on TCG Player, that's why people say that. So that's a good clarification, I think, because some people tend to get confused on why people say that, or like when content creators say that, like on like a vendor POV or something like that. That's why, in my opinion. All right, so next up, we got Mushi. So Mushi, let's get into it. So the Ancient Mew. And so the one thing that we always want to check is whether or not it's the Nintendo error, and it is not. So it's spelled, so for context, if you guys are unaware of this Mew error, the Japanese printing of this Ancient Mew actually came with an error. So they actually spelled Nintendo wrong. It's considered the Nintendo error. And this one, as you can see, is spelled correctly, which means that it is not the error. And then additionally, going back to the thumbprint, even, it looks like we almost have like another one, which is right here. So you can kind of see these little lines here. Those almost appear, I can't, you know, say with certainty if they are thumbprints or not, but it does look like it a little bit. So I would say definitely make sure with a microfiber cloth just to kind of wipe those off. We don't want that affecting the grade, but this is a really good high quality picture, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, who isn't, Chief? Nintendo. But aside from that, I'm not seeing, these cards are notorious for having print lines because the entire card is holographic. And I'm not seeing any from this perspective. And in addition, it's very well centered. So far so good. Now the back is not so much. So we have some scratching here, right down the middle here. So we have, it's a little bit curved there. And we have, because normally you can see print lines kind of going, like kind of going across like this in this section here, but in this case they're kind of going, they are going down. You can kind of see this way. Yeah, they're great, Mooch. These are definitely good quality pictures for sure. So I'd say the back is probably going to be taking away some of those points just because of the surface of these scratches. So here's some of those print lines that I was talking about. Hopefully I can kind of bring it up here. So right here, right there is a print line because it's going very straight horizontally, and you can kind of see where it almost makes like a connection. So on this left border, and it goes right here to the left of that Pokeball. So we have some print lines there, but aside from that, the front is really kind of saving this card. So I'd probably say, just due to the nature of this card, you know, you're probably looking at that like near mint plus range, so that's 7 or 8. I would say if there are more scratches on the front of this, which I would probably bet that there are, but it's just kind of tough to tell from this angle, you're probably leaning more towards the 7. But if this card is as clean as what we're seeing in this really good picture, You could argue that this would get like kind of like more of an 8 because the corners are so sharp and the centering is really good on the front and the back. But I don't think it would get a 9 because of the scratches or anything like that. So you're probably like within, well, I'd say with those two speculations, I think that's probably where you're kind of leaning into 7 or an 8, pending if there are more scratches that we simply can't see from this review. So kind of just keep that in mind. Next up, Tyranitar, which is going up in price. Again, said it again. I'm going to say it for every card on here, probably. This Tyranitar looks to be well centered. So far, so good. Edges look good. Corners look good. Yeah, this is a really good, clean copy of this Tyranitar, my friend. We take a look. I mean, I'd say the only thing. So here's probably the two things that I'd probably check. Is whatever this little bit of white fuzz or white speck, just wipe that off. Looks like it's just simply stuck on there. So I'm not really worried about that. The only thing that I can think of that I would double check is just to make sure that the centering on the bottom is within that kind of range as is on the top. But I think at first glance, I think you're pretty spot on. So I think if you can get rid of this little white speck on the bottom, I think you have a pretty good shot at a 10. Because I don't see anything else. Maybe you got a little bit of white speck between the 3 and the 0 there, but that's very, very minimal. I'm really kind of like nitpicking here. And probably right there to the right of the knocked out, that little speck right there as well. So I think if you just get rid of those, I think you have a really solid shot at a 10 for that Tyranitar, which is huge. So congrats on that. So I think those, like I said, I think those problems I just mentioned are pretty easy to correct there. Let's see. Centering on this card looks great. Not seeing any major print lines or anything like that, so that's really good on the front. And I would say the same thing as the Tyranitar. Probably remove that little white speck. But in addition, I am seeing what appears to be, but I don't know if that's the lighting or not. This looks like this, I'm not worried about this top left corner. But here on this right side where it's a little bit darker on the backdrop, you have a little bit of whitening here, but I don't know, again, if that's from the lighting or not. So you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt there. But I do see what appears to be some very, very faint scratches here to the left and to the right of my mouse. But I think it's so faint that you might be able to get away with it. So I would say, pending what I was talking about in the top left there, and seeing if that's also some whitening in the bottom right. I think some fuzz there as well you can remove. I'd say it's probably a good shot, but just double check what I just kind of talked about on the back. But aside from that, I think this is a pretty good shot if you can remove that. And I think this is so faint that I don't think that would be a huge detriment. The Scizor, I think a really underrated illustration rare, to be quite honest with you. Very underrated. Centering is great. Corners are good. Surface is great. This one, man, you got these like little fuzzies all over the place, Moosh. Got these like, you got one stuck on here too. Got a little bit of one stuck there in the top left corner here. A little bit of whitening there on the top right. So might not with that little bit of whitening, but I would say you're probably in like that long range 10, meaning like you have a shot, but it's not a good one because of the little bit of whitening. But I think the centering is really good. If it were me, if you can clean those up, maybe send it in. But right now, with like how crazy prices are, probably wouldn't. In addition to it being increased. I mean, GameStop's not increased though, which is actually really nice. But I'd say this is probably like more of like a long distance 10 because of that little whitening in the corner. So if I got a 9, I wouldn't be surprised. But sometimes I've seen him get 10s, so that's why I say long distance. So hopefully that helped you out, Mushi. I know that you're in here, that's why I'm saying that. So next up, we have Alex with the Giratina V-Star. A lot of these gold stars are starting to get looked at more and more, especially from folks. It's actually really interesting. I've been seeing a lot more people leaning more towards the desire to have sequentials, which I think is very interesting. Like, for example, if you had the, what is it, the Giratina, Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia, they'd want to get them graded right in a line. So they have like, you know, if the certain number was 1, 2, 3, 4, they want that in the sequential order, which I think is really interesting. I personally really wouldn't care if something's sequentially graded or not, but it seems like a lot more people are, which I think is interesting. All right, so, and again, guys, if you are enjoying this, I'd really mean a lot if you guys like and share the live. Definitely helps push my content out there, so I really do appreciate it. So let's look at this Giratina V-Star. Centering looks pretty good. The right side may be a little bit thicker than the left, but not by much. I think you're still good. Surface looks great. Corners look good. And I think we're kind of having that same issue that I was talking about with kind of that like long distance 10. But this one probably not, probably even a bit longer. We do have what appears to be some whitening up here in that top left-hand corner, but we also see one that's a little bit more notable in the bottom left. So I'd think with that, you're probably distancing yourself from that 10, so probably more of a 9, especially if there's a little bit of whitening on that top left as well. So I'd say more the 9 than anything. So that'd be my assessment if those are actually 2 bits of whitening on the card specifically. All right, next up we have back 2. So back 2. Got the Pikachu. We got some Surging Spark stuff, which is really impressive. The fact that you guys pull this stuff is crazy to me. So let's take a look. Centering looks good. No issues there. The card is very textured, obviously. So it's kind of hard to see if there's any like major print lines or anything like that. But I'd say for the most part, as long as you didn't throw this down a flight of stairs, we should be good for this, for the surface. The back looks to be good. I'd say just try to remove whatever this little bit of white fuzz is and just zoom in just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this little bit of fuzz. Just make sure to remove that so we don't have any potential docks on your surface grade. But well centered on the back. Corners look great from what I can tell. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good 10 contender, to be quite honest with you, for that Pikachu EX. And then next is the Alolan Executor. Centering looks good, maybe a little bit thicker on the right, but I think you're within that range, so not too worried there. The back, let's see, it looks to be well centered, and we have a little bit of those pack folds going on, but I think those are good. I'd say the only thing to check, but I don't know if it's the lighting or what that's making it look really aggressive, is this bottom right hand side. So that fold is making it look really bad, but I think it's just a pack fold, which means that I think you should be good, depending on if it kind of looks the same as these other ones in the top as well. So if they do, I think you're good. But if it's not, if it's worse, then you're probably not going to get that 10 because of it. But I think overall you have a pretty good shot at it with those speculations. All right, so let me just track this stuff. So next up, we're going to talk about, and it'll be really interesting to get your thoughts on it as well, is where there's a lot of news that we got to go over, chat. There is a lot of news to go through. So there's a ton to talk about. There has been fakes that have been circulating the collector market. There has been new Pokemon Pocket content being released, which I'm super excited for. I'm going to be doing some streams about that and doing some deck building with you guys. But really the big one that I want us to kind of talk about and observe today, because it really is going to be an interesting take on what happens with CGC moving forward, is because I did a video on this a while ago, when CGC first reviewed these prototype cards. And so with these prototype cards, originally they came from like the early stage, like early stages of Pokemon, like concepts, like kind of just play testing without putting a lot of money into manufacturing. So these cards were supposed to be these play test cards. And so you can kind of see the alpha prototype, which was assessed by CGC, and these are the actual slabs that they were put in. So they're certified and guaranteed and all that fun stuff. So you see these cards, and at first when they came out, was it like maybe like 3 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, when they came to auction and the employee was able to like show the world that these actually existed. It was cool. It was a really big piece of history for Pokemon. But and this was a forum, if you guys ever want to really dig deep into like Pokemon collecting and all the very nitpicky stuff, E4 forums is a huge resource. I remember when I first started, it was an excellent resource for me to kind of get off the ground to see more of the advanced side of Pokemon collecting and what to look for. As an excellent resource. And so one of the people there recognized that when you look at printing, the printer will actually have metadata in certain lighting conditions. So you can kind of see, it's nice to have the magnifier, so you kind of see these little dots on screen here. So those represent a metadata pattern of the printer on when it was actually printed. And so in this kind of decolor decoder, because they're all basically just positions and ones and zeros and whatnot, this card in this example was printed on June 29th, 2024, not 1996. So that led this kind of discussion on whether or not these cards were legitimate. And you can see that these cards are fetching, golden auction, authenticated by CGC, are selling at around 25 grand. And so that is a really big deal that CGC did not catch that these were in fact fakes. Now, I don't know how the printing process is, and like, I'm not trying to say like, oh, I would have caught it. It's probably very sophisticated. I would hope, if CGC wasn't able to authenticate them. And there's obviously been instances in the past where authentication companies have let fakes go through. A big one that happened a few years ago, right, was with grading packs through PSA. But PSA sends them off to a third party to authenticate, but so they're not like directly tied, but that was something that got brought up and was attached to PSA as an example. So this is kind of no different. But this one has led to, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars worth of damages, which is crazy. So really what it boils down to is, what are we actually about to do with this information? And so really what it boils down to is, grading companies, the core objective of a grading company is to authenticate the item and give its assessed condition and mark it as official and authentic. And they, based off of what this person said and all this data and what people are reviewing and kind of further legitimizing these claims, overall delegitimizes that grading process as a whole from CGC, because they failed to authenticate a card that was manufactured in 2024, allegedly, is where it's kind of going in from. So that I thought was very interesting. In addition, what happened today is that it kind of keeps continuing with these Pikachu Illustrator sheets that were also kind of like, okay, well, if these alpha prototypes were printed within 2024, what about the other stuff? And this is also kind of going through that same procedure. So you can kind of see here where we have those little specks of dots for that metadata under these really harsh conditioned lights of like the UV and whatever. It's starting to really have us question if this stuff is legitimate or not. And it really just boils down to what someone brought up before is, is there a partnership with AI that can be introduced to grading to help detect some of this metadata? Because this is all just binary at the end of the day. This is ones and zeros and patterns on a card that can be detected under these different conditions. And if AI could do that better, it's really a good opportunity for something, because that's just a straight up task that AI could possibly do. I think that would be a really good opportunity to kind of help further detect fakes, because if you're selling cards that are, you know, hundreds of thousands of even millions of dollars, you really want to make sure. So the blowback of this is that CGC is definitely going to have a lot of PR work to do and possibly some lawsuits, because this is a huge stain on the credibility of CGC potentially failing its major objective, which is to authenticate cards, and they failed to do so in this claim. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm sure this is not going to be the last time we hear about this. So we really have to kind of keep our ears and eyes open on what ends up being, if this is false claims, if these are true. But a lot of the stuff is kind of pointing towards the true than false. But at the end of the day, we'll have to see. And then in addition, we have on the plus side, we have Pokemon Pocket. So Pokemon Pocket has just come out with all the cards that are going to be coming out in tomorrow's update, which I'm super stoked for. So that's going to be really interesting to see what decks come of this. I think some of the ones at face value, there's a lot of really cool, like we're starting to see some synergy cards. We're starting to see some archetypes, especially with the Uxie, Mesprit, and the Azelf. So we're seeing those kind of being the first archetype, which is really interesting. They're kind of combining with one another for the Pokemon specifically. And it's just going to be really fun to come up with some really creative builds. It's always nice and refreshing. And the artwork is insane. Like some of this stuff is like so cool. Again, really, it's kind of nice, you know, with the amount of all this crap going on with people scalping product and product being very hard to come by. You know, this is kind of a blessing in disguise, you know, to seeing such great artwork and something that you can actually like have. You can access these cards because they're not physical. You can just download, like you can buy virtual packs and download them and whatever. So it's really cool. This artwork is insane, and some of these effects are insane. Like this Weavile is sick, about to pounce on that pig. Darkrai Stealing Dreams. It's looking sick. Then we have the special rares. Those are looking cool. So very just super sick. But anyway. So I think that's going to do it for me tonight, guys. I have a lot of background work. You can kind of see that I have more than enough work that I gotta get done. Because I have a show coming up now. I have a show coming up in February 16th. So I gotta start preparing for that now. I got invited to a show that I'm gonna be partaking in. So got a lot of work that I gotta do tonight. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. So I know it was a little bit of a shorter stream, but Grade Review episode 52 is in the books. Coming down the line, I have some more cards that I'm going to be cleaning. I have some cards that I'm going to be preparing for my online store. I'll be at a show. So it is in New York, if you're in New York. So I'm going to be updating my online store before the show. So if you want to try to get some good deals, there are some in my store. And so, yeah. That's pretty much what I'm going to be doing for this week. I'm going to be picking up a really nice collection this weekend. Excited to show you guys that as well. And I got to be doing some video editing. So I got a lot of work to do tonight and this weekend. So that's why I'm going to cut it a little bit short, just to kind of catch up on all that work. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. As always, you guys are the best. If you are new here, appreciate a follow so I can see you again. If not, it is what it is. Nice seeing you. But anyway, guys, I appreciate all the love, and I'll see you